Hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today we are joined by the New York Liftoff Audience Choice winners. Let's find out who they are and what their films are. Let's start with you, Pierce. Welcome to today's stream.
Hi, thank you. My name is Pierce Stephan. I'm the co-writer and director thereafter.
Okay, cool. I'm the cinematographer and co-writer for thereafter.
We're students at Pace University in New York, and we made the film kind of as something that we could do that was contained and easy in the sort of COVID atmosphere with a single actress, as few locations as possible, just so we could create something.
Amazing. Well, we're going to dive into that in a little bit when we get onto your film, and I can't wait to find out more. But let's find out who else is on the call. Ronald, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. My name is Ronald Hinton, and I am the co-director of My Hair, My Rules, which explores men of color's emotional connection with their hair. Yeah.
And I can't wait to find out more about the way that you shot this film. Which is very, very interesting. I've never seen it done to that scale, so let's find out more about that. And Jennifer, what was your project?
Yeah, so my project was A Man Cleans a Toilet, and it was part of my thesis project from Brooklyn College's MFA television production program. And my inspiration behind this film, just really briefly, was just seeing how just the inequalities between household chores between siblings, and especially siblings of like Hispanic families, and I decided to dive into that for this film.
Very cool. And then finally we have Everett here as well. What was your film?
So my film is The Line, which is a dystopian drama about a world in which men and women are kept completely separate except for reproduction.
Nice. So how this stream is going to work is we're going to start by screening Everett's film, and it will be muted in the background as we delve into more of a director's commentary style. The chat room is open, so if you are watching and you have any questions for our filmmakers, please feel free to put it in there and we'll do our best to get those answered during the stream. Let's start with The Line. So that's just starting up now our side. Here we go. So that will take a few seconds to see on your screens. But Everett, why don't you tell us a little bit more about why you wanted to make this film and what your process was?
I actually started studying physics for 3 years and did not enjoy it and was just feeling really trapped and pressured by the need to, go into a STEM field or get a job and kind of follow that traditional path line. And while I was there, I was taking some creative writing classes just on the side, and I wrote a short story which kind of became the basis for The Line. And it allowed me to create a world where everything is micromanaged and controlled, and you can't even follow just your simple passions. And that really kind of appealed to me as I was feeling trapped there. So then eventually I moved to New Zealand for a year, do film school there, and I pitched the project to the school, and shockingly they actually let me make it, which was a huge relief. And then this is how it kind of turned out in the end.
So when I first read the log line, it was like screaming out all of these different science fiction films that we've seen.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of, The Lobster is the first thing that came to mind, weirdly. And, sort of the fact that it's in an office setting, kind of brings up a bit of 1984 in my mind. Sort of the main character is sort of trapped in this office space and he's separated from all his co-workers. That kind of sort of controlled isolation was definitely there. Was there any specific stories that influenced the project going forward? Anything you watched and thought, oh, yeah, that's good. I'll think about that when I'm writing this?
Yeah, so The Lobster, as you said, was a huge influence on me. It's one of my favorite films. I remember actually that was the one big film that I gave to everyone working on the project as this is where my mind went immediately when I started working on this.
That's a really, really cool way to engage the crew, actually, because it sort of puts them on exactly the same level. I think it's great to say, this is how I see it, but if you're kind of showing the crew that. I think there's been a couple of occasions where big movies have done that, where the director has sat everybody down to watch something. That's really cool.
Yeah, so we did that. I'm a big advocate. I often will make playlists for when I'm writing, that are tailored to the film. And so I had about 30 songs that I listened to on repeat for about 4 months.
I am exactly the same like that, yeah.
Can you still listen to those songs?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
Others, not so much. But yeah, so that really, between just watching Lobster and listening to a bunch of music and stuff, kind of created the world that I wanted to bring to everyone else, which is a little awkward, a little quirky at times, but I think it really pushes the characters in interesting ways that you wouldn't get just in the real world.
Nice. So we can see here that they're in the room with when the deed happens, I guess you can call it that. Where did you have access to the locations, or what locations did you use in order to shoot this?
Yeah, so the reproduction room was actually our sound mixer's house. He had a spare bedroom.
Nice.
And so we spent a good, half day, a little more, locked in this tiny little room with bare bones crew. It was hot, it was sweaty, but it was, as plain a room as we could find without having to build a custom set. Which definitely was not in our budget.
Sure.
So we did that. The office is just a rentable office space in downtown Auckland. So we were there for a day and a half. And then we also shot at one of my friends from school, her flat and the street outside there. So those were our main spots.
So did you already have these locations in mind as you were writing, or did you have to find them after you wrote the script?
We had to find them after.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
The way the school year kind of worked, we started pitching the project and writing way back in the beginning, but we didn't get assigned a producer until much later on. And then once we had them, we started going out and scouting locations and figuring all that out.
Nice. What would you say was the most difficult thing that you had to overcome during the process of the writing through to, I guess, submitting at film festivals and anywhere in between?
Yeah. For me, it was the confidence to actually make this story. I was asking actors to do a very heavy role for their first student project.
Yeah.
It was not an easy situation. Everyone on the crew pretty much was college age. We're all pretty young, and yet I wanted them to trust me enough to give a good performance and let me send this out to the world. So it was a little bit of trying to just tell myself that, yes, I've been training on this. I've learned the skills. I know I can do this, and convincing them that I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. No, putting trust into your cast and getting your crew to do what it is that you want is super important as well. But well done for overcoming that and getting it made. How has it been received at the festival level?
It's been pretty good so far. I've gotten into a couple others than just here, which is super exciting. It is my first actual big project that I've made. So to see it received so well from the start is really, really exciting.
And when did you finish this project? Was it?
This was finished in December 2020.
Okay, so in the middle of the pandemic then.
Yes.
And I think maybe I got it wrong. I kind of jumped in on a conversation that you were having before we went live. Did you say that you were in the States and it was taking place in New Zealand, or what was the...
So I was in New Zealand. I got out there a month before the pandemic really started shutting things down.
Yeah.
So I was over there for my whole year. We were in lockdown for a few weeks, but then luckily in New Zealand they were able to stop it
you guys were lucky.
Pretty effectively.
Yeah.
So I was able to film a scene with 2 actors getting as close as you physically can, which was a huge relief. It was definitely a fear in the back of my mind as I'd spent a few months writing this that it was never actually going to come to anything just because of COVID.
So then, did you stay in New Zealand for the whole process? So you managed to do a screening there as well with the rest of your team?
Yep.
Yeah, okay,
so
cool.
I stayed through graduation. This was finished up just before that, and then I stayed to work on another project and stuff for a few months, and then went home.
Nice. So what's next? What are you working on next?
I just started production on a new project that I wrote, and I'm planning to direct that. Basically, I roped a bunch of friends into helping me. We're hoping to shoot sometime in October.
Nice. And is it along similar themes?
I mean, not entirely. It will follow a knight as he kind of struggles with his PTSD and just his responsibility to his family, but also his need to try and take care of himself in a medieval society where nobody really helps you, and it's expected that you be as strong as you can.
Cool. Don't get many medieval dramas.
No, that'll be interesting.
That'll be really interesting. Nice. Let's just take our attention back to the film. Sorry, the film's over here for us. So I'm just whipping my head around, having a look at it. The cinematography is great. What did you shoot on?
That is a question for my cinematographer. The camera that he brought. It was a Sony something that the school provided us. My cinematographer, Max, he and I, for about a month, almost every day, sat in the parking lot at school for 4 or 5 hours, and the plan would be, we're walking out of a meeting, let's just, chat a little bit until one of our rides comes. And then it would turn into 4 or 5, 6 hours of sitting in the parking lot, just talking over every little detail. Honestly, he was probably one of my closest collaborators through the whole process. And thank God for him, because I could not make a film look like this on my own.
So this was going to be my next point. One of the main advices we give to filmmakers who are either just about to start making their first film or second short film is get a DOP that knows what they're doing, because you have a vision that you want to achieve within your film. And if you don't know how to do that, and someone else who's maybe not as an experienced DOP doesn't know how to do it, then you're not going to achieve what it is that you want. And it's so sad to see that realization drop. So I'm glad that you had someone on board who could bring your vision to life.
He was such a great help. And just like anytime I would throw crazy stuff at him, we planned everything as best we could. And then on the day, inspiration strikes and I throw him this ridiculous, annoying shot that he now has to try and pull off, but he always found a way to do it.
Camera people are really good that way. They always find a solution or a way to realize anything, certainly in my experience. But then, of course, they sort of throw stuff back at you, and it's like they're speaking a different language. All these camera terms, you're sort of like,
Yeah. Lighting is just as important, though. Getting that right to get the cinematography correct as well is definitely where I've fallen a lot of times in my filmmaking. But you've got nice neon lights there as well, which really add an effect. Especially if you are working on a lower budget film, the lighting can just definitely elevate to making it look more expensive.
What also interests me is I've noticed that the scenes in the reproduction room have a different aspect ratio, and then elsewhere it's got a different one. Was there a particular reason for that decision?
So I kind of wanted the look in the reproduction room. It is a completely different world to the rest of his experiences. So outside of the reproduction room, he's living kind of just like the world's version of a standard life. So I put it in 235, which is kind of, a pretty standard widescreen format. And then once we went into the reproduction room, I really wanted to visually emphasize the shift. This isn't just a room that he's in with the same actors with slightly different lighting. I really wanted to show the audience this is where the world changes, and this is where the big important moments for the character happen.
Yeah, nice. You get a solid choice to make as well.
Yeah, just even coupled with like the lighting's all different as well. Yeah, because it's supposed to be very alien for the main character, and it comes across really well in every single respect. So yes.
Do any of our other filmmakers on the call at the moment have any questions for Everett or thoughts that you'd like to share?
I think the cinematography was great, like they said as well.
Yeah, Max killed it.
The story and the cinematography.
Yeah.
Remy and I had just saw it again, a shot from before a few moments ago, where he crosses the line of the pillar in front of her flat.
Yeah.
As he's approaching her, and it's gorgeous. I think just thematically and visually, it's so.
That was so we were scouting the location, and we were planning to completely shoot the other way in the scene and have them on the wrong side of the pillar for that shot to happen. And then again, Max and his amazingness was like, well, if we actually just shoot everything from this way, we can have this post in between them that physically separates them within the shot. And wow. I think it works awesomely. So
nice. All right. What would you do differently if you were to do it again?
I definitely. There were a few moments, especially during like the intimate scenes, where I would second guess myself. And either we would do more takes than we needed, or I would be nervous that I'm making people do too many takes.
Yeah.
So then, of course, my poor editor is in there, and she's like, why didn't you just shoot this again? It's not working. And I was like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So just kind of having the confidence that I do know what I'm doing, and I can make this, and just committing to the actual choices and the work we put in beforehand and letting that come through, as opposed to worrying about 8 million different things that may or may not happen.
Absolutely. On all of the bigger productions now, there's always an intimacy coach to make the actors feel comfortable. So not having that support as well just shows that you must have been an incredible director in order to make people comfortable in order to perform the way you did.
We lucked out Jennifer Ward-Leland, who is like won New Zealander of the Year and does intimacy coordinating for big productions and stuff, and is a huge advocate for that stuff, came and gave a talk at our school.
Oh,
so
perfect.
We reached out to her, and she came in for a half day during rehearsals and worked with all of us, taught us all the proper protocols, terminology, and just got us up to speed to be as confident and comfortable as we could be. And thank God for her.
Amazing.
That's so great.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your film with us today. And do join in on the other conversations as well. If there's anything else that you would like to share, then share away. We're going to move on to the next film, which is My Hair, My Rules, which is yours, Ronald. So I'm just going to get that started now. But as I do, why don't you recap and tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this documentary?
Yeah, sure. So it's My Hair, My Rules is inspired by my own hair loss journey. I felt like, I grew up in a mixed race household. I'm Puerto Rican and I'm Black. And so I grew up with my Puerto Rican side, and there's just like different dynamics, I feel like, to hair care that aren't always understood, especially Black hair. So I wasn't really allowed to like grow my hair out until I was in college, and I decided, like, I am doing my own thing. I'm working, I'm making my own money. Like, I want to do this on my own, and see, experience what this is like, because my family didn't really know how to care for my hair. So I feel like that's why they kind of just had me cut it, and societal norms of how Black hair should look, especially with Black men, professionalism in schools. And so I decided to grow my hair when I was like 19. I first decided to when I was 16, but then I kind of, was still living at home and still had to kind of experience, what I wasn't as confident doing it. I didn't feel like I had the support to do it either. And so when I was 19 and I was in college, I just decided, I want to grow my hair. I want to experience this. I want to, I feel like the natural hair movement was kind of getting more known and more embraced. And so I was like, I want to grow my hair out. I have friends who are talking about all these different products. Let me join in on the conversation because this is something I've always wanted to do, but never have been able to. And so I did that. I was really loving how my hair was coming out, and just kind of like, it felt for me like self-care, like taking care of my hair, and really realizing all of the different kind of nuances of my identity, and being able to embrace them through something like my hair. Because again, I was raised with my Puerto Rican side, so I didn't have too much experience or closeness to my Black side. And so I feel like that really brought me closer to that part of my identity as well. Especially like during the times that we were in, like when I started growing my hair, it was pretty close to, like 2016. The Trump era and like things like that. I feel like racial tensions were really high, especially. So it's a really interesting experience, but also a really amazing experience, how something that a lot of people view as superficial as hair was so impactful to me and impactful to people in their culture. And so it was really exciting for me to be on this journey. And then I started noticing like 2 years later, a recession in my hair, and it was really stressful to me. And it was really like, wow, this is so like, I was not able to do this for a long time. And now that I'm doing it and it feels like such a big part of my identity and it feels so good, I'm starting to lose my hair. And so I went to the dermatologist. I scoured like internet articles and all the YouTubes and like things like that on like how to, slow down hair loss. And there really was nothing. There's a lot of natural remedies, but a lot of them I would try and they weren't working. And so I went to the dermatologist and he told me about my options being like finasteride, which is a daily pill that you can take, that you would have to take like every single day for the rest of your life in order to block this hormone called DHT, which like causes hair loss. Then there's like minoxidil, which is like the generic brand of Rogaine. And then there was a hair transplant. And so I didn't really want to do any of those because all of them sounded like really just a bit like invasive, and like I'm not sure what's gonna come, and they all had side effects. But so then I tried the natural stuff, and it really wasn't working. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try these things. I tried the minoxidil. It made my scalp itch a lot. I tried finasteride, and that one of the side effects is low libido. That's the proper term. And so I ended up actually experiencing that, and that was not fun. And so I was just like, okay, that's not working either. So I kind of like, this is over the span of a couple of years too. I decided, I'm going to look into actually getting a hair transplant, which I thought was really wild. But I was like, if I want to actually keep my hair, and it means so much to me, this is something, I'll explore. And so I did that. There's so many articles online, what I found interesting was that so many people are anonymous in these forums. A lot of people are talking about this experience that they're going through in terms of balding, losing their hair, but all of them are like, you can't see any of their faces, you can't connect to any of them. It's just like anonymous. And so that was like a frustrating thing for me, because what I learned is that hair transplants are very specific too. So it's specific to your hair type as well. So like me as a Black man with like kinky curly hair, I need a surgeon who actually know how to work that hair. And it's interesting that we got my doctor to agree to be in the documentary, because he explains it way better than I do, why curly hair is so specific and why you need it takes a little bit more work and a little bit more skill in order to do it. And you need to find the right doctor, because otherwise you're gonna like have different textured hairs all over your scalp, which we don't want. So I think I'm going on a long tangent, but that is
fair enough.
Yeah, that's kind of the basis of the film, and since all of these people were anonymous, I just thought that I really wanted to be someone who actually speaks about it, because I really wanted to see other people speaking about it, especially other people who look like me. And I felt like in exploring all of these forums, I was not the only person that was going through this.
Oh,
and
no.
So
I was just about to say, there's a magazine in the UK that published the 5 top fears that men have. And it was definitely in the top 3, losing their hair, if not number
wow.
1.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, again, that was an anonymous poll. They asked. Nobody named themselves in that poll. So, yeah. It's good that you've taken that away and can bring something that people can familiarize themselves with.
Yeah, sure. For sure. I just really wanted other people to see what this experience could be like, and also to have themselves reflected, because I think that especially as men, you know, it's hard to like care about things in general because society, you know, the way society depicts us, or the way we're supposed to kind of adhere, you know, or how we are supposed to act. And so that doesn't allow us to really be as vulnerable in talking about these like smaller, I say it with quotes, because I think that in doing this project, I realized how important hair is, and discussing it with all of these different guys. We have like 10 people in total, or 9 people. I think there's 10 of us in total. And the one thing that like resonated with everyone is, or people didn't really realize, and that they said to us at some point, was like, I never thought of how impactful my hair is in talking about it. And so it was interesting to have bald men who were like losing their hair at the moment, or feeling like they were, men with full heads of hair who weren't even worried about it, just having all of their different experiences, but knowing that we had shared experiences too, in the way that we felt like we had to maintain our hair, and also our fear of losing it.
So is this your first film?
Yeah, this is my first film.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what did you do prior to filmmaking?
So I'm an actor. I've been acting since I was 12 years old. So like that, storytelling is all I've ever known that I wanted to do. This documentary actually was just because I was going through all of this stuff and I was frustrated, and I was like, and when I decided I'm gonna do this hair transplant, I said, I'm gonna make a documentary about this because I went through so much stress, so much like anxiety. It was like very frustrating. And a lot of that was due to the fact that I couldn't just like openly ask people questions like about their experiences, or like see myself reflected, see them even. It was just all anonymous. And I was just like, I don't want other people to have to go through this as well.
So looking at the cinematography and just the colors that you've managed to capture, I cannot believe that this was shot on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Insane. How come you chose to use that medium, one? And yeah, let's start there. Why did you choose to use an iPhone?
Yeah, for sure. So, well, like at the basic level, we didn't have a budget. And so it was kind of like, what can we do? And thinking about me making this documentary, I thought about my friend who's now the co-director, Joel. He has like a YouTube series where he makes videos, just kind of, he's a journalist. And so he makes videos that about, you know, situations or topics that are kind of going on that he's interested in. And I love the way that he was doing them. He was doing them all on iPhone. And I thought that I thought it looked great. And I asked him, you know, what were you using? He told me he was using his iPhone. This was earlier when I first saw his videos. And he told me that the way he made it so cinematic was a Moment lens. So there's this brand called Moment, and they have iPhone lenses. And so it can change. So we didn't just shoot on iPhone on the native camera on iPhone. We actually had this app called Filmmaker Pro, which also helped make our shots way more cinematic because you can adjust the focus. You can sometimes adjust colors. We didn't play around with colors too much, but being able to adjust the focus and being able to adjust the lighting was really impactful to making it look way more cinematic. And so he would shoot on those. And so I was just like, let's make this documentary. I'm going through this. I just decided this. I want you to help me make this documentary, will you? And he was like, yeah. And so it was during COVID, both of us were pretty like free and available at the time. And I was just like, let's do something. I had just started my own production company, and I was like, I want to make content. And so he jumped on board and he agreed to do it because he himself has curly hair. It was something that was close to him. It was a story that he wanted to tell because, when talking about the natural hair movement, men of color aren't often centered. It very much centers women, and which rightfully so. But I think that also leads to men not being able to feel like they are a part of this or being able to speak about it. And so he came in and he brought that skill. He helped me learn about kind of using this app and filmmaking on iPhone. And it was just a really empowering and incredible way to do it because it made filmmaking seem so much more accessible, so much less intimidating.
So we get lots
to do it on our own.
Lots and lots of filmmakers who want to shoot on a specific camera, whatever it may be, and then they find out that it's out of their budget or they can't get the lenses that they want or whatever. So then they're like, oh, we'll just push this project to the side, and then 5 years later it's still to the side. But you just got to do it. And I just love the fact you were like, do you know what, it's accessible, we'll just download this app and get this lens that we can put on the camera to make it look so much better, and go out and shoot a feature documentary. It's just like, yes, this is what we need more of. So.
It's another great scenario where kind of the stars aligned at the right time. You obviously met the right person for the job that knew exactly what they were doing, and the proof is in the pudding.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Nice. My kind of question about it is the collaborators you've used. I love the opening of the film when it's all the collaborators kind of summing up their own experiences, and then the documentary. I just think it sets out the through line for the whole thing so well. But in terms of getting a hold of all of these men, are some of these guys like friends, or did you post ads at all? What was kind of the process of sourcing the collaborators for the project to be interviewed?
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for that compliment, because that's actually one of my favorite parts. And I really loved the beginning of the film and the montage of all of them.
Yeah.
But getting them, they're all friends of ours. So we just thought, who can we contact to, just discuss this with us? Because we all know, our friends, a lot of our friends either have curly hair. We wanted to kind of just discuss all different places where everyone was at with their hair. So we wanted to include bald men. We wanted to include men who felt like they were losing their hair. And it was hard to get them to be open about that, to be like, can you talk about yourself losing your hair, or is this something that you're going through? But we just decided to text a bunch of our friends and say, this is what we're doing. We didn't tell them what we were doing at the time. We just told them we wanted to have a conversation with them. And then a lot of them agreed to do it, and it really worked out. I feel like we got a decent amount of people. I think this is just the right amount of people, because we actually wanted to get more. But then while we were editing, it was like, wait, this feels right. I feel like any more would be too many. Any less might be I don't know, we were missing stuff. So we just reached out to them either through text or email. And they were really down. There's some people who I actually asked who weren't comfortable talking about it. But again, I think everything happened for a reason, and we had the right amount of people. But we were really adamant about focusing on men of color. So it was nice that we were able to get this cohort.
Nice. Do our other filmmakers have any questions for Ronald?
I will say, Ronald, I'm Dominican, so I understand the whole hair process.
Yeah.
I know when I was little, my mom said she used Vaseline on my hair.
Wow.
To brush it.
Yeah.
So that it didn't take me until I was a lot older, and it wasn't actually this past week I hadn't straightened my hair for 3 years, and like that's something super like important. So actually, I know it's like different, like because I know you're talking about hair loss, but this is more kind of just like embracing your own texture. Like it's very really interesting how, and also I have an older brother, and he kind of always jokes. He's like, "Oh, I want to grow out my hair. I want to grow out my hair," even though he's like 26, 27. My parents are still like, "No, you can't grow out your hair," and it's something that's so controlled, which is something so interesting. So just wanted to pop that in there.
No, thank you for giving that perspective. And I although it's like focused on men of color, I really do hope it like resonates with a lot of people in hair care. And that's some of the comments that I got, which was really nice. Some of the comments I got from women, it was really beautiful. So yeah, but it's actually funny that you say that, because one guy in the film, he is Native American and Black, and he was raised with his Native American family, and said that that's what they would do. They would put Vaseline on his hair and try and brush it down to make it straight, and it didn't work.
Wow.
It's so fun. Yeah, that's when I was watching the film again today. The first thing I thought was, I need to book a haircut now, actually. So that kind of, because when mine grows out, it kind of mushrooms. So it sort of kind of curves into itself. And I look, it basically looks like I've got like a watermelon on my head, or sort of, Lego figures when they've got the clip-on hair. That's what I always got teased for, Just, it's all got to come off,
Nice.
I was curious. You said you did acting since you were 12. I assume if you're an actor, that was more in like narrative stuff. How was the transition to making a documentary and structuring that and figuring that out as you went?
Yeah, it was really interesting because this is both of our first films. Luckily, Joel is a journalist, and so he knows that world a bit more. And I also love documentaries, and so it was kind of just our little like brainchild, like just coming together, figuring out what it would look like. It was not supposed to be a feature film. Like, we didn't intend to make a feature film. We thought in our heads it was going to be like 15 minutes. and then we just kept filming things and like kept filming more. And like the interviews themselves were like an hour long, each one. And then like filming the medical like stuff, because our doctor was allowed us to. It just became this massive thing. And we had all of these shots. And we kind of referenced other like documentaries that we enjoyed, and it just turned into like this bigger thing. But we knew like we both understood the narrative that we wanted to tell, in terms of just all of these guys being able to share like a universal theme, and I feel like documentaries it just happens. Like I heard that when I was first making it, but like the story happens as you continue to just shoot, and that is really what happened. We just kept shooting more. We kept getting different perspectives that were really interesting, and like sometimes challenged my own perspective. And then a lot of it happened in editing as well, just figuring out where to put certain things in order to make the story flow in the way that we wanted to. So I feel like it really happened very organically. There was no, and I wrote this down actually as something that I would have done differently, which is create a shot list. We didn't have any shot lists, and so it was really like, it was really cool that we made it work. But I do think I couldn't go back from getting the surgery, so like we didn't have as much B-roll as we could have had before I actually cut my hair and did the surgery. So that's one thing that I would do differently. One thing that I would take more into account in my next documentary, just creating shot lists, because although it is, realism in real life, it's still, you want to get certain things because you can't go back sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting that since you shot on the iPhone, it allowed you to be a little bit more free, but at the same time, it stopped you from creating that structure. Because like if you were budgeting, okay, we only have this camera for a week, and now what do we need to get in this week? And you would just, you'd have to plan it out. Whereas when it's an iPhone in your pocket, you can just, let's grab a shot today.
Very true.
Which both blessing and a curse.
We were able to use Zoom too, which was good. But the film was shot over maybe about like 3 or 4 months.
Nice.
That kind of brings about our next question is, what's next? Did I hear you say that you're working on another documentary soon?
I'm hoping to work on another documentary. I'm working on a narrative project right now. I'm working on a pilot that I wrote. And it focuses on a group of queer Native New Yorkers and their experience adulting. Because I'm from New York, born and raised, and I don't feel like my New York experience has ever really been shown. I've seen a lot of content about New York. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for that. But down the line, I do want to make another documentary that will be focused on Puerto Rico.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Best of luck with that pilot.
Yeah, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, cool. So I'm going to move over to the next film now. So the next film is yours, Jeniffer, and A Man Cleans a Toilet.
Such a title. I just...
Right.
So that's now playing our side. It will take a couple of seconds to come through on your side. But Jeniffer, why don't you tell us what inspired that title?
Yeah, so I remember that was the first thing I had. I didn't have any of the story. I was just like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show a man cleaning a toilet. Because I actually, for my thesis project, I knew I had to do something. And I wrote a web series about like 2 friends. And then I was writing the episodes and I was just like, I just saw it getting bigger and bigger and kind of out of my control. That I was like, no, I need to do something else. And I remember it was like Sunday night at 10 p.m. And that next day I had to have 3 proposals for my thesis. And I think my brother, he was still living with us. He just kind of like made me mad for some reason. I was like, all right, you want to know what happens? And then I just kind of like started writing this. The first draft was really kind of dark. And then when I was presenting it, they were like, maybe not. Like, scale it back a little bit. Like my advisor was like, oh, Jeniffer, this isn't really you. Like you should do something kind of more like this. So it was like originally that like just kind of there was a point where like the brother like steals her toothbrush and uses it and stuff like that. So it was very much like very bathroom focused. So I don't know why. It actually happened with me and my brother once. I walked in and he was brushing his teeth and I made a joke. I was like, hey, isn't that my toothbrush? And he just looked at me with like fear in his eyes. But that was just a lot of but anyways, I just realized I was like, we don't really see men like doing household chores like in film and like whatever, or even just in real life. Like for me to, I think the 1 or 2 times my brother has actually cleaned the bathroom was me forcing him to do it. So that was a lot of like fun to a lot of people who watch this film and who know me, my brother, they're like, oh yeah, we can tell you wrote it.
Yeah.
Well, don't they say to draw from a previous experience when writing? So
yeah, definitely.
Nice. And the house that you shoot in, is that your property or did you hire it for the weekend?
This is actually 3 houses. This one is my aunt's house. The bathroom is my mom's friend's house, and all the bedroom scenes, me. So it's me and like my parents' room. But yeah, this is a different house already. So this is like my mom's friend's house. This is something that like when we were filming, we had to kind of stay away from windows and doors because all of the houses are very different. And like, so my production designer, set dresser, was like, Jeniffer, like, you gotta get like these doors out the way. Like there is a banister for the stairs right there. They had to kind of put like a sheet there to kind of make it look like not so distracting. But like I was kind of worried about that, but also just like people, I feel like unless you don't know that it was like 3 houses, you kind of can't really tell if you're like focusing more on the story, which is kind of what I mostly focused on, the story for this, because it was very like a personal project that I was just like kind of letting out all my frustrations.
I mean,
that's where I am right now.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's kudos to you and the production designer, because it's something I definitely would have missed is sort of the outside. And it's also like making sure the aesthetics of the houses match. Is that, yeah, I never would have guessed that's 3 houses. That's really great.
Yeah.
Where were they located? Was there like a huge amount of distance in between the different houses, or was it easy to get to the different locations?
So I shot 1 location per day. It was just like, for example, like I have big rooms, but I have a small kitchen and a small bathroom. So when I was writing this, I like established that I was going to be filming in these houses without asking them permission. And my mom, who's kind of like my manager, she just called her. She's like, Jennifer's filming at your house for these 2 days, and that's like, you kind of can't say no to her. So she was like my little location manager there.
Perfect.
But yeah, so like again, like since it was like family, they kind of understand this whole process, but they really didn't know the extent of how much work came into it until they had to be there. Like for example, in the kitchen scenes, the living room was right behind, so it was like my aunt and like my family. They were all just sitting in the living room really quietly, just like. And like they learned that when you're quiet on set, you really have to like be quiet. And they were just like, "Please, we need to use the bathroom." I'm like, shh, wait.
And a lot of times people think they can whisper and speak, and it's like the mic picks up everything.
Yeah, I remember for when we were filming in my house, my mom and her friend were doing like catering for us, so they were cooking downstairs.
Oh.
And then the sound person was like, "We hear it," and then I had to yell, and like my mom's friend was like, she was like blaming my mom. She's like, "She said I could talk," and I'm like, "No, you have to be quiet." Like, and it was just a lot of like. People would start playing music, so I had to like send somebody like no, stop, like this isn't, you're gonna, you know. And this was actually shot months after all the other scenes.
Oh wow.
Which is really interesting. So it was a lot of scrambling for this project.
And
it worked out.
Yeah, definitely worked out. What about your actors? Where did you find them from?
So I found them on backstage. Funny thing about Francesca, who plays Anna, she actually wanted to audition for my first short film, and for whatever reason, she accidentally didn't see the message. So I casted that for a short film, and then she like messaged me. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I missed this," and I was like, "Oh, I hope that we one day get to work together again," and like never thought about it. And then she again applied for this position, and I kind of made that connection. And I didn't tell her, I think, until the last day that we were filming. I was like, "Oh, Francesca, I don't think you remember, but you actually mentioned this." And she was like, "Oh yeah, I totally mentioned it." And it was actually only a couple of months apart. But it's really funny how like the world kind of works.
Definitely.
It's like it was kind of still meant to be. And I feel like I told her, I was like, I feel like for this first project, she might not have been like the right choice for this, because again, like it was just a very different kind of thing. But for this one, I was like, yeah, this is definitely Francesca. When I was like writing this and we were talking, we had really similar experiences. So she was just like, I think she did a really great job. And Jonathan as well, when I was auditioning for Carlito, like it was about 4 or 5 actors, and there's me.
Nice.
They all had really different readings of the role, and it wasn't until Jonathan that I could tell like right away. I was like, oh yeah, this is the same kind of vibe. And they were both really great to work with. They all like brought a lot to the table. They worked really well together, and it was actually really funny. For one of the days, it was like we were having breakfast, setting up the first shot of the day. So Jonathan was like sitting down, and then all the women in my family were like surrounding him, already offering him like breakfast and stuff like that. And Francesca comes over. She's like, "Jennifer, look, this is the film. This is like basically what's happening." Like the men are really coddled in like this society and this culture, and I wanted to kind of like punish them a little bit.
Did you do much rehearsal with the actors, or was it more turn up on set and we'll go through the different steps that need to be done?
Yeah, so I had a rehearsal about 2 or 3 weeks before we started the first. So this is actually, we shot all the lawyer scenes in my school. So that was our first day, and Francesca was actually out in Florida, but I gathered everybody else in here, actually again in my living room, and we rehearsed, and we just, we got to learn about each other, and they actually got to work more on like their relationship between each other, like what they think they could bring to the table. And Jonathan even came up to me. He was like, "Oh yeah, like I was even surprised that there was a rehearsal, because a lot of times like he comes on set and he doesn't really know what's happening." And it's something that I thought really worked well, because it's like we got to know each other, we got to know each other's personalities, like we got to become a little bit more familiar with nice. Him and I, and all the rest of the cast members.
So for your next project, will you be using the same cast and crew and actors again and start building your kind of collaborative network, or will you be outsourcing?
It's funny when we were filming this, they're like, Jen, what's next? Like, we're doing this. This. Like, I don't know what my next project is yet, but again, even my cast, my crew, they're like, Jeniffer, like, what are we filming next? What are we filming next?
Yeah, from your story, it sounds like you all really clicked, and now that's going to become like your collective,
yeah,
which is amazing.
Definitely, yeah. We were a really small crew. We were about 6 people who filmed all of this. And we didn't even have like a gaffer for 3 of the 5 days.
Oh wow!
So it was my poor DP running around like adjusting lights. It was just a lot. So I say like for my next project, I was talking to my DP and gaffer. I was like, I am doing 1 day, 1 location, 1 actor, because it was just a lot of moving parts. And I am really proud of the project, but it was just like I felt like it was a lot to happen because I kind of didn't have the support that I wanted to, just because my class, it was only me. I didn't have any classmates. So even to find this crew, it was a lot of like friends through a friend. Like for the set dresser, I randomly PA'd one day and I met her. She was like, oh, I do art. And I was like, are you free these days? Like, I want you. I need you. So it was kind of just like through luck trying to find them. But I believe that like as a casting crew, we really clicked together. So I would love to work with them again.
Amazing. Any questions from our filmmakers for Jeniffer?
What do you mean you were the only one in your class?
I was thinking that.
I always bring this up. I feel like it's kind of just like, so long story short, they wanted to be selective in my program, and then that backfired when everybody else started dropping out. And it was my 2nd year. It was a 2-year program. I had already written the script, and my last classmate, he texted me, he's like, oh, Jen, I'm transferring out. And I just looked at him like, okay, so now I really don't have anyone. So yeah, I didn't have anyone. Like my DP, like I was in a class of undergrads because I didn't have any classmates, and he just came out to me. He was like, hey, Jen, do you still like need a DP? I was like, yeah. So like, it was just really like, I basically was like, well, I already started this, so I'm gonna finish this. So I was my entire graduating class was me.
Wow.
Wow.
Congrats to you. Right.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, just to sort of have the, initiative to obviously go out there and start expanding, looking in other places for collaborators. Like, if that had happened to me, I would have just frozen and panicked. Yeah, exactly. So, no, like, well done. Yeah, that's such a specific challenge to overcome, especially, like, so, early in the career stage, so well done for that.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of scrambling, but thankfully, like, even though we were small, we were really, like, mighty crew that... they were long days, and but thankfully everybody was up for it, and I think it worked well, and we don't hate each other, so that's good.
And I think, as you say, like, it might be sort of a quite nice sort of release and a bit more satisfying for the next one to just kind of scale down a little, just go for something a little smaller, and just obviously, go, yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah,
see what happens.
I'd love to just focus on directing, like the next time, because it was just like, I didn't have a producer, so it was me. I edited this, I did the sound mixing, and I did the coloring for this. So this was all. And when people are like, what's next? I'm like, I need a break.
Right.
Like, it was a lot. Like, this is all me. I wrote this. This was 2 years of my life. You're seeing this right now. So, well, obviously not all me, like when we were filming, of course, like in the hat. But I just mean like in terms of like pre-production to production to editing. I've seen this a lot. So it's just kind of just need to step back a little bit.
Sure.
Just like breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
At least this means if you ever apply for a job and they're just like, do you know how to do this? 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 You can be like, yes, I can do it all. So well done.
And I think that going forward too, like, although it is a lot, wearing all of those different hats leaves you being like such a great collaborator and being able to understand all these other people's perspectives when you bring them in. So it's cool. It's challenging, but it's pretty cool. I'm kind of wearing all those hats on my pilot right now.
Yeah.
And acting in it too.
Yeah, I realize I'm just like it's fine if I do all of it, but also like I just needed like somebody else there at least to support me, just kind of so I don't have to pay attention to like this or that. Like even this day, I didn't have an AD on set. It was my two art people being like, "Hey, Jennifer, it's 5 o'clock." I'm just like, "Oh, okay." But it was just like every position exists for a reason, and they're all super important. So that's why it's also kind of just like rounding it out a little bit more. I think would have been a little bit better, but this was fun. Like it was me, the sound person, and the DP in the bathtub shooting all of this. This is all it was great, but definitely like a little kind of a learning experience of being like, you need more people.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think that's the key word, I guess, is sort of learning experiences. You know, with each film, you can only get better with the craft and sort of get a better handle on everything more. So, yeah. I did just have one final question, and it's a shot that we just saw on the screen, but it's like the POV of character looking into the toilet. It's probably a silly question, but did you basically like have to unscrew a toilet seat and put the camera onto there, or did you just put the camera in the toilet to get the shot? How did you do that? Because it's one of those sort of it's the standout image.
Yeah, I bought a toilet seat.
Right.
And I left my two art people, my production designer, my set dresser, off into a little corner. And they were like, we'll just use a brown paper bag. So it's a new toilet seat. They put a brown paper bag around the corners. And they put two sandbags. You see where the sink of the bathroom was? They put the lid on that, and they put two sandbags on it. And it was me and the DP on the ground looking up. Because he had the camera on top of him. He couldn't really have a monitor. And I was like, oh, how can I see? He's like, you just have to trust me. I'm like, no, I want to see this. So it was like me. And it was funny, the brush head was just used, so we did get a little bit of toilet water on us. But it was definitely like, that was one shot that I really had in mind. And I was just like, well, how are we going to do it? And like my art people, they're like, we got you. Like we got this. So like it sounds kind of difficult, or like even when people are watching, like how do you do this? It was actually pretty like very bare bones, with like gaff tape to the sides, and then I returned the toilet seat. So
again, it's useful to have people who know what they're doing.
Yeah, if I didn't have like production designer or set dresser, like of course everybody's super important, but I just mean like that was also like really, really great to have them around. So it was really, really great.
Yeah, nice.
I have one final question for you, actually. Are there any influences from like actual shows or movies that influenced this outside of your experience? Because I feel like it was very like whimsical, like family kind of like comedy, like, so I wanted to know if there were any other inspirations that you drew from it outside of your experience.
Yeah, so I actually struggled a lot with this because I couldn't find a source like show or film that inspires me or that's something I can draw from. I think I always use the example of like Raising Victor Vargas because it was like the one like Dominican family film that I saw that I was like, oh, this is like my life. Well, not to this like, exactly, but and that film was like from 2001. So that just goes to show like I struggled to really find things. I had like advisors like, oh, you can watch this, you can watch that, and I would watch them, and I was just like, yeah, but this isn't anything that I can draw from. So like, but if anybody has any ideas on what this can remind them of, that'd be great. But definitely, like again, for my next project, I would like to see like some source material. But I would try to like watch even like Dominican films and stuff like that. I'm not saying like, oh, this is super rare and like this is the first thing that's ever happened, but I just couldn't find something that I could use that I could draw from. So that was also kind of another difficulty creating this because it was just like maybe it was just too rushed or me wearing too many hats that I couldn't like sit down and try to find source material.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that like I think would have helped. So like when Everett mentioned that, I was like, oh, I would love to have something that I could draw from, but I couldn't find anything.
I would challenge that to say that I do think it is pretty rare. Like seeing that in film, especially focused on, you know, Dominican culture, because Latinx culture is typically like under one umbrella of Latinx and not really specified. I do think it reminds me a little bit of One Day at a Time, if you know it.
Yeah, I do remember my production designer was like, you should look, we drove from One Day at a Time for inspiration for the production design. Okay. But yeah, definitely that, yeah.
I guess my final question then, it goes to everyone, but we'll start with you, Jennifer, and then we'll find out what everyone else's answer is. What film or what moment did you decide that the film industry was for you? Was there a particular film that you sat in the cinema and was just like, yes, this is the industry for me? And what was that film?
Yeah, so actually, Ronald, I'm going to go backtrack on what I just said, because that just reminded me. When I watched Jane the Virgin, that was a show that they were supposed to be Venezuelan, even though the cast were Puerto Rican, which is the whole other thing. I watched it and I got to see a lot of like the family dynamics, which also reminded me kind of like mine. So that when I watched it, I remember when I was writing my kind of just like my application for grad school, I drew from Jane the Virgin. I was like, oh, this is something that I would want to do. Because when I watched it, I was kind of always inspired to, but I didn't really know that it was a career until I literally opened the booklet and it said television production for grad school. I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, it was kind of always something in the back of my mind. I tried to convince myself that I'd be happy doing something else. But it wasn't until I was like, no, this can be a real career. And watching Jane the Virgin and watching kind of like these stories that focus a lot on, I don't know if you can already tell, but I really do value focusing on like Hispanic families, Hispanic culture in my work, because again, it's not always highlighted, or it's not always even like, even shown. So that's kind of my role. I want to do like, I'm not going to say every single thing, but it's like that is my one like focus on. So seeing Jane the Virgin, seeing like this, like they'd mentioned some things, or like the grandma would say something, and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, like that, I heard that before. So that really inspired me to want to do this for a career.
Great.
I'll have to add that to the list.
Yeah. All right, Everett, what's yours?
So for me, Interstellar, I watched that, and that's what made me go study physics. But then it kind of turns out I just like movies.
An expensive way to find that out, but yeah.
Yeah. So definitely I watched Interstellar and then Arrival. Those two films pushed my love of science, but then turned it into filmmaking and centering it around a person. And that, after I started, I was watching those while at college, and I was like, why am I spending all my time watching these movies and this while I think I want to study physics? But turns out the films that brought me to physics were actually trying to get me to go into film.
Cool. Great.
We have a poster for Interstellar next door, don't we?
Yeah, it's on our office wall. It's like, we always tell people to watch that film. But yeah, amazing. Cool. Ronald?
So I think it's going to be kind of funny, but I've always loved TV more than film. I've always loved TV shows, and like I think it's my grandma who she would always watch so many different TV shows, but I specifically remember like her watching soap operas, and I would love them. Like I would make sure to come home from middle school, like make sure I get there before like 3 o'clock to watch like General Hospital with her, and like on my days off I would like watch One Life to Live with her, and like these like soap operas that were so like dramatic, but I was just like, I love this. And even myself as a kid watching like my kids in like Disney shows, I would just find myself like repeating like the lines, but like in the way I would, and like my family would sometimes tell me to shut up because I was doing it, and like let them actually watch the show. And so that just, I don't know, registered to me as like, I really love this. And then my dad asked me like, what do you want to do? When I was like 11, I remember, and I was just like, I want to be on TV. And so I started my first acting class, and then I was just like, I love this. I'm going to continue to do this. And it's funny, actually, because Pierce and Remy, I went to Pace University. So small world, I went to Pace University for acting.
Hey.
Their FTVC program.
Yes, our lead actress
class of it. Yeah, nice.
Well, I think that leads on very well to us moving on to you guys. But let's find out, before we do, let's find out what your what film it was that drew you into this industry. Pierce or Remy, take it away.
So for a lot of my like really young life, my dad was a huge monster movie guy. He loved like those old kind of B movies, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, if anyone's ever heard of that. Something he really liked. And those and like kind of those Spielberg movies like Jaws and Jurassic Park, I was really into like practical effects and animatronics.
Nice, yeah.
I
approve of Jaws, yes.
Yeah. Yes, oh, Jaws, amazing movie. But yeah, I think like Stan Winston stuff, definitely Jaws, Jurassic Park, made me want to get into the industry from that standpoint, and like the designs and the monsters. And then I think as I got older, I started to really enjoy storytelling and that aspect of it. So that kind of merged together into directing and filmmaking.
Amazing. And Remy, what was your the moment that you realized the film industry was for you?
The moment, it was a miraculous time. So it was very much off of like childhood also, but I think I got into just the industry pretty late in terms of the idea, but I think the movie was Hero. It's a 2002 Zhang Yimou film. It's a Chinese film, and so that got me into it because of just the colors and how they used colors in storytelling, and I'm like, that's never seen before in my eyes. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn that, and yeah, that got me into it. And then a lot of other movies came afterwards, and like Her and Hayao Miyazaki films.
Yeah,
those have a special place in my heart.
Well, great.
That's so funny. There's a copy of Hero sitting on my grandmother's shelf because I go there after. Here, just sort of the commute and everything. Maybe next time I'll have to pick up Hero and give it a watch because it's so like visible on the shelf as well. Like I just see the big letters and everything. Yeah, you have to grab it.
Nice.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, so I'm gonna put it on my list as well. Thank you. What was yours?
Oh, Jaws. Just the same old, yeah.
Just Jaws.
I mean, kind of the same is that, yeah, I mean, people sort of joke that the shark looks fake, but that's obviously part of the beauty of the thing. And I was still terrified when I first saw it. You know, I think we said in the last stream, it's the bit when the kid is on the raft and he's taken by the shark and you don't see the shark and there's that great dolly zoom. I think 8-year-old me, it just completely blew my top off. And I think that's when I realized that film really has the ability to shake you and your worldview. Because since then, I'm scared of sharks. I'm scared of the ocean. I never really like to go near it. And I've made it's funny though, I have made like the goal to one day go shark cage diving because I feel like I need to confront a great white to sort of overcome this fear I have. And then obviously when you read about, you know, the challenges that, yeah, I know, lots of people react that way. I've got to do it. The challenges that Spielberg had to overcome at the time and how he sort of coped with everything that was getting thrown at him. The fact he was shooting it on the actual ocean and it was eroding all the equipment and the shark kept breaking down. Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw did not like each other very much. And obviously you can see how he dealt with that is that the characters don't like each other either. So that very much helped the performances. It's just a great, you know, the film itself is a great story. I saw a review on Letterboxd for it where somebody called it the Great American Film, which I haven't stopped. It's, you know, a really good, interesting use of terminology there. So yeah, that would be my number one.
I guess for me it was, it's a very British film. I like British sense of humour. But it was a film called Bend It Like Beckham, which is a sports film. Absolutely loved it. I was so into sports, loved filmmaking, or the idea of being in the film industry as well. So I was like, merge the two together, that's the type of film that I want to be in. So from there, I kind of went down the acting route as well, went to drama school here in London, pursued that for a while, ended up doing quite a bit of motion capture, actually. So combining the sports in a different way. But I will make a British sports comedy drama, coming of age film. That's what I wanted to make.
There we go.
But yeah, Bend It Like Beckham of all the films. Cool. All right.
I think we have a question.
Yeah, go on, Remy.
Yeah, no, I was just commenting on the shark thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Don't go into a cage if you're already...
Don't go.
I was gonna say, wow, going from 0 to 100.
That's confronting a fear. Oh my god.
I just, you can't knock it until you try it, I suppose.
All right. Let's get the last film playing. So thereafter, Pierce and Remy. I'm just going to start that up now. So that's starting now. It will be black on screen for a while because of the opening scene. So let's just talk over that. Pierce, Remy, take it away.
Yeah. So we got together. We met first semester, so about like last fall, beginning of September. We're both part of a program at Pace called the International Performance Ensemble.
Cool.
My major is directing, and Remy's focus is acting. And we did one short film together. And when we came on the second semester, I think we wanted to do something that was more. We wanted to do something large scale, but we didn't want to have to. We had some ideas kicking around, and the more we discussed them, the bigger they got. And kind of like Jennifer, you were saying with an idea you had, they kind of blew up out of our, not only our capability, but the capability of the times with the pandemic and everything. So we wanted to like scale down into something that we wouldn't have to sacrifice our story because of technicalities. And Remy cornered me on the way home one day with this idea based off of an actress, Ilsa Ashkin, who was actually in the FTVC program, who we had met on a project with another student the semester before. Something with a single actress, one-ish character, and some kind of sporadic bit parts that we could expand into like a solid length story.
Yeah, original idea of the film actually just came from me walking down the street of like I think it was like Broadway.
Remy, I think it's quite hard to hear you compared to Pierce. I think Pierce, you might have the microphone part of the headphones that you're splitting.
Oh, is there? Okay. Do you think if we take the headphones out, that might make it easier?
Yeah, maybe. If everyone else mutes their microphone, it'll be fine. Okay. Go on, Remy. Where were you?
Sorry about that.
There you go. That's cool. That's cool.
Wonderful.
Oh, perfect. I don't know how much you got, but the original idea came from me walking down a street, and I was talking to my significant other, and I was just like, pretend to like find directions or something out, like a voice, and then I was just like, well, what if it just became an idea of like a relationship with an AI? And I'm like, well, that's kind of already been done, but I wanted to see what we could have done with that type of style, because in the end, it is just the classic story of two people growing together, or not even a person, but two things growing together, and how their relationship develops.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of we ended up finding a really big theme of connection, which, as exhausting as it might sound now, is super prevalent with the pandemic and everything. Just being able to find something very valuable with someone you can't see or touch, and in this case, for at least the first half of the film, can barely feel at the same level as you can, and how even the smallest bits of connection that don't even have to be human can kind of fulfill that side of you that needs that coexistence and that love from whatever source it might come from.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you got your influence from with Her and the film Her. Yeah, really, really cool. One question about the first shot that we see of her on the subway. Did you do that guerrilla style, or did you get licenses to go down and shoot there?
You stole my question.
Full guerrilla.
Guerrilla. Yeah.
We kind of try to find a subway car like down at the end, train off hour.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think there was anyone on subway car that got that shot.
Well, the one perk that came with the pandemic is that no one was on the subway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
true. No one's
that's true.
Yeah.
If you were to go around it the proper way and get licenses, is that quite hard to do in New York? Because here in London, it can be quite difficult. So just wondering what it was like.
Yeah, we actually had some experience with just licenses in general, because of our first film, we originally wanted to film near the One World Trade Center, and that plaza is mainly owned by Westfield. So we spoke about a lot of stuff and a lot of weird law terms that I was just
a lot of very large numbers were tossed around.
Yeah, and we're just like, we can't afford that.
Yeah.
So, but it seems that anything that's public in New York is able to be filmed without a license, like a public transport or anything. We looked it up. I looked it up. So
cool, nice. And then you've got some great locations here as well, thrown around. Where did you shoot all of this?
So this was actually the apartment that our lead actress Ilsa was staying in at the time. Was a property of her family's, which was incredibly fortunate to have, and we had it throughout. We contacted her very early on and pitched her the idea before we started writing the screenplay. So we had this place in mind as we were writing, and we do a little bit of kind of reconfiguration of the house with the shots.
Nice.
Her bedroom door leads into a hallway, but we kind of make it lead directly into the living room just to kind of switch things around for convenience's sake. But no, we were very fortunate to kind of have the freedom to leave our gear, have free time, not have to worry about obviously licensing and outside kind of distractions and noises and things, because she was living alone. So we had like that very malleable space to work in.
So this is a 40-minute film. How many shoot days were there?
Oh, we actually I'm not sure the exact. We shot it over the period of about a month, but
Okay.
It wasn't every day because we were in classes at the time. So we kind of got everyone's class schedule together, and we self-produced the film. So I kind of sat with the whiteboard and everyone's things listed out and just cried over the 3 hours that we had.
it
Yeah.
actually turned out to work out really well. Like Ilsa, the lead actress, was free the days that we needed her for the most part, and I think we only had to reschedule it once. And she was also super flexible and kind whenever we did go over. We just, like a third of the film, it was just Pierce and I with Ilsa. The rest of the crew went home because it was past their scheduled time, and it was just Pierce and I just running it. And
Sure.
he'd be on sound and running around. It was time.
Yeah, we wore a lot of hats while we were making this, because I think on set I think it was like 6 people max. When we were lucky enough, we would have someone on sound. A script supervisor named Sophia Penn was phenomenal and definitely saved me with her note taking. And
Yeah.
I would go in and look at all of the shots we got that day and think, oh God, what did I not write down? What did I not realize we didn't get? And she had already written it, so that was incredible to have. And then it was kind of me, 2 crew members, Remy on camera, cinematography, and also acting off camera as the voice of Orion, and then Ilsa. So very bare bones, which made it easier to schedule, which was nice. Not a lot of people to have to account for, but it was a very guerrilla project.
Again, as with all of these other films, the cinematography is pretty good. What did you shoot on?
We shot on a Black Magic pocket cinema camera.
I mean, yeah,
So-
cool. On what lenses?
It's a Leica lens, 12-60. So
Cool. Yeah, I'm a massive fan of the Blackmagic pocket camera. I think they're just so adaptable to any situation. I just love them. But yeah, cool.
I remember when I was starting my degree, I think in our first year, we were told that we had a Blackmagic in the building, and it wasn't until our 3rd year that we were able to actually use it. So it was just kind of that period of, I can't wait to use the Blackmagic, further down the line.
I lost my mind when I came to school for a semester, and Remy asked me to be a part of the first short film, and showed me that camera, and I was like, because I've been shooting on Canon T3i at home, the camera I've had all my life, which is a fantastic camera, and I will advocate for it till the day I die. And that camera's done to me very good, but the upgrade was nice.
So, as it is just the lead actress mainly in this film, along with your voice, what was your rehearsal period like in order to get her to perform so well by herself, essentially?
We brought the screenplay. We brought it kind of in its early stages to her, so she could start kind of getting to know the character, because I think we realized early on that if we were going to build this performance with one person, it was kind of vital for her to be an integral part of that process.
Yeah.
And we did, Everett, I remember you mentioned playlists and music. We did that very early. We created a mutual Spotify playlist and kind of all added songs, all 3 of us, as we were developing it, that reminded us of the themes and that we could listen to while we were writing or while we were rehearsing. So Ilsa was with us from the get-go, kind of reading early drafts, letting us kind of like feel out the character in her voice, so we can kind of edit and adjust to that. We had I don't think we had. I think we just did one day of actual like sit down rehearsal before we started shooting. Just because I think with class schedules that was our max. We couldn't schedule anything else in there. We just needed to start shooting as quick as possible. But there was a lot of free time again, just because of the sake of the location. We could do a lot of takes and really let Ilsa and Remy breathe when it came to their performance. And the film a lot of times plays out in longer shots of. And although Remy's dialogue is all we recorded a couple months after we finished shooting, he was off camera, so we kind of let them play. And when we re-recorded, try to match that performance that we got on the day.
Yeah, nice. Nice.
I have a question.
Go on, Ronald.
Or I guess a comment. It's just a comment, really. Yeah, great job on the film, firstly, but then secondly, like I was watching and I at some point forgot almost that she was just acting by herself, and I was like, whoa, especially like as an actor, I was like, she's acting by herself. I mean, for the most part. So Remy, you were speaking the lines to her while filming?
Yes.
Okay.
So we did a thing where, because she's talking to herself for the most part, it was extremely difficult for her, and it's massive congratulations to her for selling the part. But we made it a point that whenever we rehearse our lines, like off camera and like before a shoot or something, that we would never look at each other.
Yeah.
And so whenever she's saying these lines, I'm either in a different room, like kind of yelling it or something, because we wanted to have that disconnect for the most part, and to kind of sell subconsciously that she's talking to a voice and that no one's there. So
it was a big ask of her to say, hey, can you appear for almost every second of this 40-minute short film and talk to a computer, and the computer was kind of blank throughout shootings. All of the waveforms and animation and stuff is all screen replacement after the fact. So she was very much building a character and a relationship, talking to a blank screen, hearing Remy in the next room over. So that is hugely on her. She's incredible.
Yeah, I think as an actor, that's really cool. Like to find out about like just the technicalities of how that was done.
Yeah, definitely. Just changing the subject ever so slightly. So you've got a 40-minute short film. How come you decided to go with that length when usually that is quite a tricky time to get it into film festivals? So why 40 minutes?
I think we kind of passed it around to some friends of ours with notes, and a lot of the notes were that kind of based around what we could do to sort of shrink it if we wanted more of like a digestible short film format, or even grow it into a feature. Just because it was such a crunch time we got it done during, in my brain it was 40 minutes of what we saw is like the cap for short films, and I think I just kind of wanted to push it to that and try to pull as much from that runtime as possible. Since this is the first time we've taken something to as many short film festivals as we tried to, I didn't know kind of the standard short film length. I saw that like 40-minute cap, was like, okay, let's go for that. Let's try to push the limits of that format. But I would be really curious to see how it would function, either cut down or extended.
I was going to say, how are you doing on the festival circuit? Obviously, apart from Lift Off and screenings with us, have you been selected at many other festivals?
Yeah, there have been a few. We do a lot of online ones that we've had fun during, and we're still waiting on a lot of in-person, more kind of like events like this. But yeah,
nice.
We've done a couple. It's been pretty fun.
I would be interested to see if you manage to cut it down to 20 minutes or just under 20 minutes to see what the success rate would be at festivals then. I know when we get back into live screenings, we do screen short films up to half an hour, 40 minutes. We do, but they have to be super exceptional. But we usually, if it came down to two films and one was 20 minutes and one was half an hour, we'd most likely go for the one that was 20 minutes because we could program something else to get more bums on seats. So it is a very political point of view from our perspective, but it's just something to really bear in mind for your next projects, and that goes for everyone in the conversation here today. Not me saying like don't do that. Like no, it's totally fine. It's your film. You can do what you want. But what do you want after? Is it the festival circuit you're looking for? Are you looking to distribute it? Because 40 minutes is actually a distributable length of time as well, as is yours, Ronald, with the 45-minute documentary. It's
I
a pretty
think
good TV slot.
I think that is sort of the next round after we're done hearing back from other festivals, is to try to find a way to distribute it. I don't think obviously something digital online, just a good platform to get it seen by people.
Yeah, nice. There's a platform called Cinando. It's spelled Cinando. I mention it a lot. Basically, it's a directory of all of the sales agents around the world and distributors around the world. And the best thing about it is that they have the acquisitions, email addresses, and numbers. And the acquisition teams are the ones that are looking for fresh content. So it's definitely worth having a look on that website, seeing what your film aligns with, what those other companies are kind of selling at the moment, and if you fit in with what they're doing, and then reaching out. Just even if it's not necessarily to distribute your film, just start building that relationship. Because when you get to the point where you have a solid hour, 20-minute film or 90-minute film, then you can have a proper conversation about getting that into the wider audiences or cinemas at the release stage. So,
Thank you. That's phenomenal. I just wrote it.
Thank you.
Tab to make sure I remember that.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I think there is a small subscription fee, but if you attend AFM, so the American Film Market in Santa Monica, it comes as part of the pass. But definitely worth checking out when you're ready to either start your next production and you're looking for a sales agent to get on board, or you completed your project and you're looking for someone to get on board. There's two ways of approaching it. I would say that 60% look at it pre-shooting, so when you're in the pre-stages, whereas others only look at it once the project is completed and is ready, packaged, and it can just go out into the world. So yeah, it depends there again. So just do your research, find out what your favorite films are, where they've been distributed, who's been distributing them, and is it realistically an option for you. But yeah, it's a good website.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Just moreover on the fact I guess the 40 minutes. Sorry, it's the idea is that we didn't want to sacrifice the story because I feel like it's time, but we also were open if people were interested in the story that we could develop it into a feature film. It's kind of like what they did with Whiplash. They put it in the film festival.
That is my favorite film of all time.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Amazing film. Yeah, was it 40 minutes though, or was it a little bit shorter?
No, it was it was like
10 minutes or something.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've also seen a lot of shorts used as proof of concepts to be then made into features. So it's definitely a really good way of going around getting a feature made. But yeah, cool.
I just have one last comment.
Go for it.
Pierce and Remy. Well, I feel like I definitely saw the influence of her and Ex Machina a bit too, that I really came into my mind. And also, I don't want to say kudos on the music. I feel like the music in like certain places was really good, and it brought the emotions that I feel like you were trying to evoke. So great job with that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's actually a friend of Remy's named Jacob Wright did the music. What's the piece?
Oh, okay, we're back.
I'm
he
just
was the composer. He's very good.
I'm just having a quick look at the chat room, and I can see that there's a filmmaker called Adam who's watching. He's like, guerrilla styles is always the way for independent filmmakers. Well done, guys. So yeah, definitely cool. Do you have any questions?
I think we've
almost come to the end. So does anyone have any questions for Pierce and Remy at all?
I wanted to ask, while I was watching it, the first couple minutes, I kind of was like, oh, I can see where this is going. They're going to fall in love. We've seen this a million times. How early in the process did you know that's not the direction? You just wanted to build out this really nice relationship that's a different kind of love from what we usually see in films like this.
Yeah, that was the very first thing I said when we were writing that it won't go to a romantic direction, because I find that overplayed, and I feel like we haven't discovered the she has a disease, and she doesn't have time, first of all, and she also doesn't have time for a relationship that involves intimacy in a way that it develops in like her or something.
Sorry,
you
computer's
can
dying.
You can take this other part.
I'm sorry. Just building on what I was saying. I want to make sure the computer doesn't die. I think it was just from the get-go, we wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. I think as an effort to not piggyback off of, like you said, the concept that has kind of been done to death of a love story like that. And also just to put emphasis on the relationship is something that was more built out of this universal love than that's specifically that kind of love, because there's so many different forms that love takes. We're back. That we didn't want to box it into a love story like that. I mean, there's something so much more universal about just a friendship.
Yeah, that was an excellent choice. It made it so much more enjoyable. Really seeing something fresh and interesting as the story unfolded was great.
Agreed. And the ending was sad.
That was I think the ending was I really am in love with that kind of the glass passing off to her sister. I think that was another important thing that wasn't the love as well, is that it wasn't, not only was Orion and this AI this sort of object, kind of that face value friendship that she had, but it was also this kind of embodiment of what she learned about connection and about appreciating the people around her that she's able to like give to her sister at the end as like an idea and as like a physical gift of the AI.
Yeah, we actually had a long talks about the name of the AI, because it wasn't originally an Orion. We had a lot of like different ideas, and it really stems as he's like the middleman to this relationship between the sisters. Because I think deep down it's really just about the sisters, but it's a snippet of one sister and this AI helping her figure out her moments, and that's the whole story. Is she's just tying loose ends before moving on. So I don't know if that made sense.
No.
Nice. And then finally, what is next for you both? Are you collaborating on your next project together again, or what's next?
I mean, right now we don't have anything kind of specific lined up. I mean, we're always writing stuff, always working on stuff. We're also just a few days away from the start of our sophomore year, so that's also beginning next priority, school and everything like that. Keep learning, keep kind of making little things when we can.
Absolutely. Well, for all of you, please do stay in touch with your next projects and keep us in the loop of what's going on. You're all on the members hub as well, so please do continue conversations on there now that we've met face to face, as much as face to face as we can in this world right now. So yeah, continue conversations and let us know what's going on. If you need any help along the way, we're always here as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, and yes, and sharing your stories. It's going to be a lot of help to other filmmakers who are embarking on their journey as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.